Back here on First Things First, Undisputed is coming up at 9:30 sharp. Jenny, hope you had a stellar weekend. Tell us all about it. But first, what are you and the guys talking about today?
Great weekend sleeping in, Jenna. I hope you guys did the same. Coming up on Undisputed, why did Antonio Brown call Aaron Rodgers the GOAT? And is there any way Baker Mayfield can win the Browns' starting job? Plus, Rob Riggle and Rob Ryan are in studio with us. Undisputed is coming up next. Jenna, back to you and the guys.
All right, Jenny, thank you. We look forward to that. Time for us to go viral. The Big Three Championship will take place Friday on Fox. Steven Jackson and Alan Anderson were asked about who else might be joining the league down the line. Take a listen to this.
My question to y'all is this. Go back to the Kobe thing. Do you think he can handle this league? Would it be more physical inside? We're going to say no to get him out. All right. No, we're going to say no to get him out. I see what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Wait for me. This guy from Let's Get It Sports asked Steven Jackson, can Kobe Bryant play in the 3-on-3 and handle the physicality? I mean, the reason I'm asking is that question was rhetorical. Okay? I can't spell rhetorical, but I know what it means. That question was rhetorical. Kobe can play in any league. Any league. Right now, Kobe, listen. You listening? I'm slapping for you. Man, please come to this league. We need you. Come on, man. Don't ask. Kobe is one of the greats, bro. You know, I'm saying it with the physical part of it. You know, this is one of the best. This is one of the best scorers of all time. You think he wasn't getting knocked down in the league? Yes, Kobe can. Yes, please come, Kobe, and yes, Kobe will be dominant just as he was in the league in this. Right on. I truly believe it.
We have Steven Jackson on the show. That's Steven Jackson.
That's the best. Now, keep in mind, Action Jack was asked about Michael Jordan going to the league a few weeks ago, and he said, not
50.
Not at that age. But he would. I think Kobe is maybe Steven's favorite player to ever play against. I don't want to speak for him, but the way he speaks of Kobe, how highly he speaks of Kobe, I know he holds Kobe in high regard.
Yeah. I do know that Big Three is very, very successful, and I do know that Ice Cube, if he had a dream team, the number one selection right now would be Kobe Bean Bryant.
Give me the other two people for Ice Cube's dream team.
So Kobe and Shaq, bring them back together.
Well, now can Shaq do it?
I mean,
Shaq, y'all better have a respirator
I was
or something
just
close
gonna say.
by. I mean,
come on, give me your top three.
KG.
Yeah.
KG definitely.
Right.
KG out there will be out there.
And
is Paul Pierce on the list? Paul Pierce might need a. Paul Pierce is going to need to get in game shape.
How about just three players that don't need respirators
I'm just trying to say,
or a diet?
I don't know. Let me tell you what happened.
Okay,
he told me about Kobe. I don't even remember the other names he told me on the list. So nice setup. You keep telling me. You said the list 3 times, but
it was only 3
It was
people.
Kobe.
We got to move on.
That was the list.
Duncan,
bring this ability to be able to get after the passer. Rod Marinelli, I believe, is doing a great job of grooming young talent. I do believe that as far as watching the waiver wire, they might try to acquire another safety to maybe give them some type of depth, because I think that's probably the biggest question mark in that defense.
And Xavier Woods just got hurt, and George Iloka just got released. And George Iloka didn't get released because he's bad. It was a salary cap move by Cincinnati, who likely realizes they're not going to be good this year. George Iloka would instantly be the best safety on the roster.
Yeah, so I can believe that Dallas, if they're not able to maybe pull off a trade for Earl Thomas, then Ioka, that he mentioned as a player there is legitimate. But I believe their defense is going to be good. All right, their corners are underrated. They have a corner that moved from safety.
Byron Jones.
Byron Jones, tremendous athlete, great reach, good size at 6 foot. But his ability, he's as an athlete, we saw him at the combine. That's where he really emerged on the national scene, has played more nickel and safety. I believe he's going to be a good corner. So a lot of intriguing pieces moving around with this Dallas defense, Nick.
And this is where, because I think the Dallas defense was underrated last year. Each of the last 2 years, they've either been a top 10 scoring defense or a top 10 yardage defense. And last year they had to do it under not the greatest of circumstances. Didn't have a ton of leads where they were able to tee off on the passer. Like we know Sean Lee was in and out of the lineup. But Jerry Jones and the Cowboys get credit for certain things they shouldn't and don't get enough credit in certain areas they should. You look up and down this roster. These are guys they drafted.
Yes.
That are making an impact. Not major free agent acquisitions. Like they have put the time in on Jalen Smith, Jalen Smith was a risk some teams didn't want to take. He was going to be a top, I believe, 5 pick. As a linebacker out of Notre Dame, suffered a devastating knee injury in the Fiesta Bowl, his final collegiate game, didn't play in 2016, was very limited in 2017. But I watched him this weekend, and he looked like Notre Dame Jalen Smith, running around out there sideline to sideline, 3-down linebacker. They took a chance on Randy Gregory, a chance that looked like it might not pay off when he's suspended for a year. But he will be back. They took a chance on David Irving. Now, David Irving just recently went to Facebook and said the NFL's weed policy is ridiculous, and he's going to miss the first month of the season because of it. But he had 6 or 7 sacks last year. He was an important player for them. You add to that DeMarcus Lawrence. Like, that front 7, if the secondary is just decent, that front 7 is pretty damn good.
And we haven't talked about their best player,
Sean Lee.
Sean Lee. So now the thing was before, well, they're good. Their defense is good if Sean Lee gets hurt. Now they have the ability, because of Jalen, if he was to get nicked, that you have that middle linebacker that can lead your defense. Now, he's not the leader that Sean Lee is, but that defense with him, we believe that's why they can be a top 10 defense.
And that just real quick, and that doesn't even include their first-round picks each of the last 2 years. Leighton Vander Esch, who missed this last preseason game with a groin injury, but doesn't seem significant, and Taco Charlton, who did play in this last preseason game and made a play.
Yeah, looked very good.
That's a guy that, I mean, you spent a first-round pick on him last year. You expect major things from him this year.
We don't always talk about this, but how important is the relationship between the defense and the offense on this Cowboys team, and how much do they need to work together for this entire team to be successful?
You're right, Jenna. We don't talk about it enough. Is from coordinator standpoint, do both, because they're in different rooms, and I always talk about the room, the offense, in the room, the defense. But do the walls talk? That they could mesh up together, that they know. Scott Lanahan knows. I can't be a quick strike offense, even though he's not a quick strike offense. I got to be a methodical, let's grind it out. Let's get 8 plays, 10 plays, 12 play drives, no turnovers to put the defense on short field, because the defense is a little undersized, so they can play fast. If they can play 28 and a half minutes, I believe that Rod Marinelli and Scott Lanahan, because both of these are veteran coordinators, that these units will talk to each other, and they will have a syncness to them, that their special teams are rock solid. Now, if we can get that defense playing on a short field or a shorter time in the game, then you can see they maximize their overall talent. And that's where you see you get the value, where teams understand what type of personnel do we have on both sides of the ball.
It's not a coincidence that some of the best offenses in league history have often been paired with mediocre statistical defenses. Like, I actually think the talent, for example, on the 98 Vikings defense wasn't as bad as its statistical resume would say.
Yes.
Because, sometimes you guys would score in 3 plays. They'd be right back out there. And when you didn't score, sometimes the drive was 40 game seconds, because it would be 1 run and 2 passes, is 3 and out, and you're back out there. Like, we've seen the Saints have some terrible defenses. Now, some of that's been coordinator issues, some of that's been talent issues, but a lot of that's been, if you're throwing the ball 40 times a game, you're going to have some quick 3 and outs where the defense doesn't have a chance to catch its breath. When you don't have great talent at the wide receiver position, and Zeke is running the football that often, the defense is going to be rested and ready.
And I believe it comes more of a problem. We saw with Chip Kelly, where it was it was the greatest example of, man, you can't just run a no-huddle offense, because your defense is going to be out there 33 minutes. And then now he's coaching at UCLA because of that. So it is an underrated thing, Jenna, the overall chemistry of a team. Belichick has this in New England. He knows that defense is not great. So he knows with that offense, they got to be methodical. So they throw the ball to the side. They run it just enough. Man, they throw it down the middle. They don't throw the ball deep, and they don't have a lot of 3 and outs there in New England. So they understand what they do have and what they don't have.
Speaking of Belichick, when we look back to the Super Bowl the Pats won a couple years ago, listen, Brady was unbelievable, and Kyle Shanahan talked about it just recently on a podcast. They didn't call all the best plays running-wise. But the other thing that happened in that Super Bowl was in the first half, the Falcons' defense was on the field the whole time because the offense was scoring instantly.
Yes.
They had a defensive score that by the end of the game, that defense was
and the coaches had not thought about it. For that second half, that huge halftime break, how do we help what our defense had to see that first half? And that should have been run the ball in that third quarter.
And so, like, the Cowboys, aside from talent at the wide receiver position, are set up, they check every box. I think the defense is better than people recognize, especially with these guys coming back. Like, the defense shouldn't be a detriment for them this year.
All right, we got to go. Talk to you more tomorrow morning at 6:30 Eastern. Undisputed.
We got to go, not like Nick Saban.